Hey folks, and welcome back to the PlantStock channel. If we haven't met yet, my name is Jesse. I'm hoping your spirits are good today because it's Friday, right? So we have the weekend to enjoy, hopefully the most of us anyways. Hope you're in the mood to learn more about Nabati Foods, one of the Eat Beyond's portfolio companies. And with Eat Beyond's help, they're going to IPO soon, and it seems that there's a possibility to actually do some investment or some investing into that company pre IPO. So we're going to talk about that and what that means and have more of a not a deep look, but an overall look at Nabati and what they actually are. And if I believe that you should actually invest in them now. All right, stay tuned. But before we get to it, as always, guys, I would truly appreciate an early thumbs up since it does help spread the message to other people out there. And that's what it's all about, right? And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, make sure to do that if you want to keep getting information regarding Eat Beyond and other plant-based stocks out there. Guys, thank you very much. I really appreciate you. Now, as always, if we just take a look at the stock chart, ticker symbol EATS, we can see that in the last couple of days, it's actually fallen down quite a lot, stabilized a little at the moment around 2057 Canadian dollars. But this is actually, it's down around 18% as of this week. But the last month or so, it has actually gone down even more, up to 37%. And as we've been talking often on this channel, I think most of you know what's going on in the market right now. It's really volatile. People are expecting maybe a stock crash. We don't know as of yet, but we'll just have to wait and see. I'm actually going to release a video about that tomorrow, so stay tuned on that. And before we get into the investor presentation from Nabati Foods, I thought we could just look at some news that Eat Beyond released yesterday regarding that Nabati Foods attracts a strong leadership team, which is promising, right? The CEO of Eat Beyond had this to say, quote, "We are incredibly pleased with the traction that Nabati is gaining in the market and are now strategically deploying key members of our investment committee to help Nabati manage this next phase of rapid growth. The next several months will be critical for Nabati from a financial and operational, marketing, and product perspective." And what is really interesting here, guys, is that it's not only any random person from Eat Beyond. It's actually Don Robinson, who is the former CEO of Mars Inc. And that's impressive in itself, right? The co-founder and CEO of Nabati Food, Ahmad Yeya, had this to say, quote, "What began at the farmers is now growing to become a multi-million-dollar operation, spanning several product lines and serving customers across the continent in grocery, food service, and industrial channels. We recognize that to achieve our global goals and ambitions, we need to have the best team out there to take us to the next level. This means attracting top talent to our team. We're so grateful to have attracted these accomplished industry professionals to guide us through this explosive growth, period." And this is, as you know, nothing new with Eat Beyond. They have a really experienced management team, and usually when they buy stocks in a smaller company, they offer advice, they offer help all along the way to pre-IPOs. And we know that Nabati is about to IPO soon. And they also talk about these other experienced personnel that's going to be part of the company, and we'll go into that later. And if we take a look at what Morris also says, quote, "This balanced and talented roster of advisors and leaders is another solid example of Eat Beyond's management philosophy and truly hands-on approach within the growing alternative food sector. Money is just one part of the equation, but support and mentorship are what really can help to unlock value in companies like Nabati. We believe in cultivating an engaged partnership to help all of our portfolio companies progress, expand, and grow in a smart and sustainable way." So in order to get an idea if Nabati is a company that you would want to invest in when it has IPO'd or maybe already before it IPOs, I thought we would take a little quick look at the company to see what we find out, right? And as we've talked about in a former video, their whole thing, a part of their whole thing is that they want to be a plant-based company that is a better for you option, right? They want to have a whole foods approach. And like they're stating here, it's easy to say, and it's that simple concept. Delicious alternative proteins and plant-based food made with simple, minimal ingredients. Honest and sustainable, we make food that works for people, including soy-free, gluten-free, vegan, and kosher certified options. So basically food for anyone out there. And they're actually moving into different categories, and we're going to talk more about that soon. We have some investment highlights. They're talking about their strong management and board, multiple product lines, proven business models with established distribution and sales, right? And then we go into the executive chairman, as I talked about, Don Robinson, with his huge experience, right, in Mars Inc. as the CEO there. And we know that already about Eat Beyond, that's where he sits now, and he's going to be part of this company as well. I think that is, if I was investing into a company like Nabati, which I don't know at the moment, this would actually make me feel a little more at ease, right, with his huge experience. As it states, quote, Mr. Robinson has 30 years of management and leadership experience in various consumer goods businesses. From 83 to 2006, he served as the CEO of Mars Inc., and from 98 to 2006, he was the CEO of Mars Canada. And further, Mr. Robinson was the CEO of Cara Operations Limited from 2006 to 2013. Sorry about that. Mr. Robinson was also the chairman of the Confectionery Manufacturers Association of Canada and was the executive vice chair of the Food and Consumer Products Association of Canada, which is really interesting. I didn't think about that before. I mean, he was the former CEO of Mars, and he's been working with confectioners of different sorts. And now he's all about the plant-based foods scene, the health food scene. So it's a huge shift in itself, right? But I think the experience is there no matter what, right? And that's what we're looking for. So if we take a look at what Nabati is doing in the plant-based food sector, they're looking to go into 4 different innovative product lines. One being dairy-free desserts, and they have their dairy-free cheesecakes. We're going to take a look at that soon. And they have the cheese alternatives, their shreds, and their slices, cheese sauce, and cream cheeses, which is actually being developed as we speak and going to be launched at a later date. Then they also had, recently they actually came out with that, meat alternatives, grounds, burger patties, and ethnic skews. And then something interesting that we're going to talk about also, their egg alternatives. All right. And they do talk, again, a lot about their value proposition here, being that it's plant-based and a healthier form of plant-based food. And we're going to take a quick look soon when it comes to their ingredients list. But some of the things that they're doing, or the things they're actually doing at the moment, is their different cheesecakes, right? And then they have, well, let's just go into their product line here, right? So this looks actually very encouraging. On their homepage, everything actually seems sold out. So they do seem to be very popular at the moment, right? But if we take a look at the dairy-free chocolate cheesecake here, what does it actually contain? Well, I think that this is one of the things that is interesting with this company. Ingredients. And remember, it's always in the first line of order, right? So the first one, the second one, the third one, that basically means what it consists most of, right? So the first thing is dates, and then filtered water and organic virgin coconut oil. And then they have organic raw shredded coconut, organic fair trade raw cacao powder, which means that it's a pretty whole foods approach for being a dessert. And this is actually the first company I've seen out there, especially that's going to IPO, that has a healthy form of dessert. I mean, comparatively anyways. So if we take a look at one of their cheeses, the cheese stress, mozzarella style, filtered water, organic refined coconut oil, organic tapioca. Yeah, I mean, reasonably healthy, I guess, compared to if we compare it to ordinary cheese. I wouldn't call it exactly whole foods, but still, I guess. I don't know. Anyone, have you tasted any of the Nabati foods yet? Let me know down in the corner. I'm really interested to know. And if we take a look at one of their meat alternatives, the plant-based grounds, filtered water, pea protein isolate, non-GMO canola oil, beet juice, pea fiber. Personally, when we talk about isolated protein powders, right? Usually, I don't think that's the healthiest for you. I mean, it's not. It would actually be a lot better if you would actually have the whole pea in there. But that's what it looks like at the moment. Now, if we move on, as I talked about, they launched these alternative meat products in November 2020. So it's quite new at the moment. Does actually look quite delicious. But what I find really interesting about this company, to some extent, is that when it comes to their R&D project, they're working with something called Nabati eggs. We're developing plant-based egg alternative in liquid state that consumers and chefs can cook to make scrambled eggs or omelets. And that's something I do find fascinating, because I do find this to be a really huge industry in the future. They will have some competition from Eat Just, right? But we'll talk more about that as we reach the end. And they talk about their proven business model with established distribution and sales. Pretty basic. Nabati Foods, the distribution industrial expert, and then it moves on up the chains, which is good, I guess. Effective marketing and sales program. Social media and campaigns targeting consumers is what they're going to focus on. Store flyers and ads, sponsorships of and participations at regional and national festivals. When it comes to sales, they're going to utilize the existing sales force of national distributor Tree of Life to gain listings and grow sales in Canada. And they're also already started to grow in the US. Not very much, but they have plans to grow even further there, right? The national listed with KH in the US. And we've seen that more and more with different plant-based products. So here we have a list of that. We are in over 100 independent stores in the US. All right. And the industrial partners that they choose to show us here is Cobb's Bread. And we talked about this. There was a soft launch on January 7th and campaign launch on January 28th. Well, they'll be using the Nabati cheese in all of their 140 locations in Canada. And that will be in their different breads, different pizza items. So, and I think that is actually quite interesting in itself, because they're going to combine that Cobb's Bread with Beyond Meat's products, and that combination with each other, I think, is really interesting. I could see something happening with Pizza Hut in the future, considering that at the moment Beyond Meat has a huge deal with Pizza Hut through Yum Brands, right? And I've been wondering, what I find sad about that is because my understanding is that it's normally not with vegan cheese, right, or plant-based cheese. But hopefully, if Cobb's Bread already have this kind of deals, of course, it's a much smaller company, Cobb's Bread, but still, it could be some kind of indication that this is what could happen in the future. And then we have the People's Pierogi and Quesava, that the switch from using Daya to Nabati cheddar cheese, which I find quite impressive, because, Daya used to be one of the largest plant-based companies out there, especially in the dairy sector, with their different cheeses and pizzas and cakes. So they're actually using Nabati. That gives me an idea that even though they seem to be a very small company at the moment, they could have huge potentials here. And if we take a look at their growth plan here, the different phases, phase one is to raise $4 million in capital, move into larger facility. Well, they're obviously going to need that if they want to expand into the US. Introduce Nabati Scramble to market, gain national distribution in the US market, grow food service sales in Canada, and gain distribution in the US. Achieve a $6 million in sales revenue, and then seek the Canadian SEC listing. Well, that would be great. Phase two, raise $5 million in capital, enter the EU market, over where I am at, by signing on with a sales and marketing firm and establishing distribution. Achieve $22 million in sales revenue. That's interesting. If we just compare with another company that a lot of us love and we see huge potential in, is the Very Good Food Company. And as of yet, what we have known, they would have had about a $10 million in sales when it comes to revenue, right? So they're talking about doubling that in phase two. Well, that does sound encouraging. And expand facility to increase production capacity and productivity. And here it already shows the share structure, a total issued and outstanding about 29 million shares, right? And terms of offering, the share price is $0.5, right? So 50 cents per special warrant. And that's the price you get to pay at what I understand pre IPO. Like a month ago or so, I was actually offered this to be able to already buy some warrants in this company before they IPO. And probably a lot of you were also offered this, considering if you have been subscribing to the mails from Eat Beyond. And we're going to talk about that later, if you should already start to invest in them or if you should wait. So stay tuned. And says one of their main products is their dairy-free cheesecakes at the moment. They do try to show a list here when it comes to their rivals, right? And Daya, which is a plant-based company, also not only dairy-free but also gluten-free, they show the comparisons here. And when it comes to the price, well, it's basically double the price of Daya. But not only is it plant-based, right, soy-free, gluten-free, kosher certified, vegan certified, which they're all, but it's a whole foods natural ingredients in it and sustainable packaging. And we know that a lot of people care about that today, right? I don't know what people would feel in the long run with a price that is double than Daya, and it's actually, uh, it's double when it comes to how much is actually in it. But I do feel that as this company grows, right, and they're expanding, they'll be able to cut costs. We'll see a cheaper version of it in the future, no doubt. And if we compare it to the other brands out there, we could see that, yeah, they have a much bigger advantage. So, and I think most people, depending on what stores, they don't always get the dye alternative, right? And I was thinking also, as I've seen in many stores, that it's not always in ordinary stores that a store takes in all the different vegan alternatives out there. So when it comes to competition, I don't think that Nabati has to worry about that to begin with, anyways. And when it comes to their Nabati cheese and rival the company, that's a bit different. There's a different story there. Their size is 320, Dice is 200, yet the price is quite similar. So you actually get more by Nabati, and it's very similar here, except again, the whole foods natural ingredients, which I talked about. Again, I'm not sure I would consider that a whole food, maybe a whole foods approach, but not a whole foods product. But I guess it's up to debate, right? Guys, let me know down in the comments, what do you consider a whole food? So, what are my thoughts and opinions on this, right? Well, I think it's really hard to form a true opinion on a company that is this new and we know so little about, right? And it's truly early days here. But I actually do find them quite interesting, considering that they have these whole foods approach, especially on some of their products. And I think that could actually be advantageous in the long run, considering that at the moment, I think most plant based companies that are actually developing now and expanding and getting out there, they will probably do really well. But long term, these companies, as more companies come out there, they're going to be more and more competitive with each other. So they're going to have to find some form of edge. And Nabati's edge, I would say, would be that they have a whole foods approach, right? Kind of like the Very Good Food Company. And like I said, this could be the only company I know of, anyways, especially one that's going to IPO that has a dessert that's whole foods. I find that fascinating. I think that's where we're going in the future. Because in my opinion, I do feel that when people think about I'm going to eat more plant-based, they're thinking that we want to be more healthy, right? We want to live a longer life. We want to prevent different diseases. And when they start eating these different products that are out there, and some of them, as you know, are heavily processed. Yes, they might be, as you know, better than the meat alternative, but it doesn't mean that it's better for you in the long term. You can't eat these products every day, right? So I do believe that companies that do produce more and more of a whole foods approach are going to be the long-term winners with time. As I stated regarding Beyond Meat, a lot of their products are very processed at the moment, but they're working on it. They're using a lot of R&D to make a better for you product. And I'm sure they will do. And I think companies who want to survive in the long run, that's the goal, where what they have to achieve, right? I've talked about this too regarding Tattoo Chef. I think it's a great company that will do really well in the next couple of years. But a lot of their items still do contain dairy. I don't think that's not what I've read in research. For me, that is not a good for you product, right? And that's something I hope that they will change with time, which I do believe, because I think they're in the know-how. They know what's going on. So they're going to try to adapt to whatever works for their company to grow more in the future, right? But as I stated before, they do talk a lot about being a whole foods approach, making food as better and healthy for you in comparison to other companies and other plant-based companies out there. I do feel like it is true to some extent, but their meat alternatives, in my eyes, they're not very attractive, I feel, anyways, personally, at the moment, because they do contain isolated pea protein. And like we know, that's what Beyond Meat has also, but they have a whole other brand awareness thing going on for them. They're already globally out there at 122,000 places, right? This is different with Nabati. So in comparison with the Very Good Food Company, their meat alternatives are quite more approachable from a whole foods perspective, I would say. And like I stated before, I do find their egg replacement product very interesting. And that's something I hope they're going to focus on more on, because I do see that industry being really large in the years to come. Yes, they have competition with Eat Just, and maybe that would actually be a steep competition with time, considering that Eat Just is basically, that's the whole concept of having an egg replacement. And they've been working on that for years, right? And they've existed for a while now too. So, but I don't think it's still early days. These are just babies in this industry at the moment. So I think Nabati will do well with that in the beginning anyhow. And we'll see. We'll see what happens. And the cheese alternatives that they have, I do like. It's the same thing with the Very Good Food Company, a company that can provide you with different revenue sources. That is something I think you want to invest in, not just being stuck with one kind of product, right? Meat alternatives is the future, I think, but so is dairy alternatives, right? So maybe if they keep making different cheeses, which actually they stated that they are doing already, and who knows, other dairy alternatives like some form of plant-based milk, plant-based yogurt. We'll see. So if you have the opportunity, should you invest in them already or directly after the IPO'd? I think it's a really hard choice to make at the moment, considering what's happening in the market, right? As I've said, I do believe in most plant-based companies in the initial years now. But at the moment, we're maybe heading in towards a stock market crash. It might be in a couple months. It might be in a couple of weeks. We don't know 100%, right? And it might take another year or two. But the problem with that is that usually when there's a stock market crash, companies that are new and not established yet, right? They might actually take a real beating, because most plant-based companies and tech companies out there, they're going to take a beating in any stock crash, right? But they'll recover, and usually they'll recover really strong. But with this company that's unproven as of yet, it is more risky in my eyes, right? But then again, I do find it encouraging that they are building up a really strong team right now that's going to help them steer right in these troubled waters, hopefully. And with the CEO, the former CEO of Mars Inc., I mean, that does actually put you to ease to some extent, I would say, especially if you're interested in investing them. So I guess what I'm trying to say here, right? And don't forget, I'm not a financial advisor. These are just my own thoughts and opinions, that if you are really keen on investing in them, be careful with the amount of investment that you put in there. Don't put in maybe 50% of your cash or make it half of your portfolio or your whole portfolio, right? I would say personally, in my opinion, that's way too risky, because we know so little about this company at the moment, and considering the volatile market at the moment. But also do keep in mind that if you do go in with a smaller sum at the moment, and this company, when it has IPO'd, and we know from historically from the last 2 years that almost every company that IPOs that is a plant-based company do tend to shoot up in the beginning. So you probably will make a pretty sizable gain, even if you put in a small amount now in the beginning. So that could be, if you're willing to take that risk, I would say a small amount, you could gain a lot from that anyhow. And also, when you see the company moving up, and depending how well they do, keep investing more, right? Dollar cost average ever so slowly. All right, folks, that is what I had to give you on Nabati Foods at this moment. I hope you found some value in today's video. And if you did, don't forget, smash that like button, right? Since it does really help me. And if you want to keep getting more information regarding Nabati, Eat Beyond, or other plant-based food companies out there and stocks, make sure to subscribe and don't forget to press that bell button. And as I stated just earlier, remember, I'm not a financial advisor. This is just my own thoughts and opinions. It's important to always do your own due diligence and do that on this company, Nabati, if you're going to invest in them, and invest safe. All right, guys. Peace out.